Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradigm Podcast. We hope you're having a great week, and thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, I want to urge you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment down below, share this video, follow us on all our social media platforms. All the information you need will be down in the description box below. So just like always, we like to start with a little bit of a disclaimer. So we here at Paradigm do not claim to have all the answers. We simply desire to be better each day. We make videos in the hope that other people that desire the same can use some of the tools we've discovered along our journey. The information for the discussion of this episode comes from the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. We hope you have picked it up and are reading along with us. If not, go ahead and pick that up. Amazon's got it for ridiculously cheap. And the chapter we're going to be discussing in this week's episode is titled Self-Discipline. So first things first, I want to ask, what were your guys' overall thoughts of the chapter? Compared to other ones, did you like it more?
I think the thing that stood out to me was more of just the identification of like the things you should focus on to build like a consistent self-discipline, right? The main three things you had four in your book.
Okay.
But it's a good identifier. It's something easy to recognize. Things that we get attracted to, such as like sex, for instance, like how would you be able to become more disciplined in sex if you needed to? Mm-hmm. I think he tackled that fairly well. It's good to hear like a different perspective. Cause I don't know, I get this book, or it comes across as this book as like unbiased. Like it's very unbiased. It's very like, here's some information. It seems factual, but it doesn't seem as if it seems like it's not leaning one way or the other. It's just, look at, this is what can cause you distress. This is what can cause you to be undisciplined. You need to look at it from a different perspective. So this chapter kind of intensified that.
Okay. How about you guys?
Yeah. Or were you going to say something, John?
You're already gone.
Oh. I thought this chapter was a little bit repetitive just in terms of, we always hear about, self-discipline and the idea that it's just good for you, right? To be disciplined for yourself. And we've covered that idea throughout a lot of our episodes in different areas. But I did think it was really interesting on explaining the appetites and not overfeeding the three appetites, which we're going to go into. I didn't really think of, food and sex and
loose opinions.
Yeah. Like overfeeding that. I'm imagining, just like being too full on something and then what that does to your body. And then how does that translate into, your behavior? So overindulgence, I think, was something to be aware of if you're practicing, self-discipline.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you for sure. How about you, John? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. My favorite appetite that they talked about, because like Devin said, we've gone over discipline a lot of times, but the loosely formed opinions is what really caught my attention, just because I guess if you overindulge in it, what type of conversations are you having with people with like loosely formed opinions? What decisions are you making with loosely formed opinions? And he's mostly talking about loosely formed opinions, So I thought that was just interesting as being one of the appetites that need discipline.
Yeah, definitely. I think that leads us right into our next point perfectly. It's a great segue. We're talking about in this chapter the four appetites. And those four appetites, or in their book, it's three appetites. They were the desire for physical food, the desire for expression of sex, the desire to express loosely organized opinions, and the desire to indulge in spiritual orgies through some form of religious ceremony. That was just in my book. We'll talk about that. But John, I wanted to kind of ask you, because you were kind of jumping into it, which of these stood out to you the most and why?
Yeah, and what is it called? The discussion of loosely formed opinions? What was it called?
The desire to express loosely organized opinions.
The express part. Okay, just the reason why it stood out to me, like, for example, I remember this one time, I met a new group of people. I was new to the area. I just moved there, and I was with some coworkers, and someone brought their boyfriend, and the two coworkers were talking about a book they had read, okay? Mm-hmm. And the boyfriend who has never read the book just chimed in and gave his 2 cents on what the author was trying to convey. And I was like, I literally was like, you haven't even read the book. Like, where are you pulling that from? And he was like, just from hearing them talk about it, I kind of just, surmised what the author meant. And I was like, in my head, I was like, well, this dude's a loser.
Just letting it go, huh?
So just like that, if you're a guy who's like always full cocked with like loosely opinions, just because like you think that your opinion needs to be on the table with conversation, maybe people won't value your opinion as much. But if you're someone who weighs in on things, that you have a strongly informed opinion with like information that can back up your opinion, then maybe people will start to take your opinion more seriously, and you'll have more weight with like your sphere of influence, etc.
Yeah. And to be clear, these are the 4 appetites responsible for most of one's lack of self-discipline. So when we're talking about expressing loosely organized opinions, I think we all know people that talk just to talk, right? Or people that share what's in their mind because there's a moment of silence.
Yes.
And, it brings me to I've been having discussions recently with a lot of people, and it seems like people don't get the idea. It's almost like expressing an opinion. The more you express it, the less valuable it gets. It's like an athlete with their autograph. The more an athlete does autographs, the less valuable an autographed item is from them. So it was interesting to me because if you lack self-discipline and share your opinion over and over and over again, people are going to value your opinion less, is kind of what I was getting from that for that section.
Yeah, I would agree to an extent. What I took from especially from like the expression of loosely opinions is not the fact that the person is expressing an opinion, but he or she is expressing an opinion based on the idea that he's trying or she's trying to persuade someone, instead of trying to garner the person's attention to pass along some information based on their own understanding of something. I think like I agree with both of you guys on what you guys just said. I think the big identifier that's different for me though is a lot of the times when people do express opinions, it's to persuade or trying to convince someone of something instead of, hey, look at this stuff I could provide, or like, look at this information that I found or I learned, or maybe I'm studying about. Have you ever heard of it? Like, do you have a thought? Instead of like, oh, like this is fact. Like, why don't you think like this? Right? Like, you should think like this. I think that's how a lot of people come off across. Myself.
Especially if it's uninvited, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If it's not invited, then that's where it comes off as like where the autograph. Like, I would sort of push back on that as well. Like, if there's a player that's killing it, like say Steph Curry or something, I don't think his autograph is devalued in any sense if he signs 10 million basketballs. I think it's devalued when
100% it would. If there's 10 million basketballs, like if I can go get one, John Croson, if there's so many of them, then it's not worth anything.
Yeah, I guess to like the market share, like if there's a bunch, like, but just on the fact, the value of the player, let's just think of the value of the player.
Okay.
I think where it starts to deteriorate is when he starts to become a worse player, where he's not talked about it, where he's not in the mainstream as he is now. Absolutely, the market share, if there's 10 million people have it, like then yeah, we're saturating the market. But based on just solely, I'm gonna sign a bunch of autographs and 10 million people have it. I don't think it's based on just him signing autographs. I think it has it's rooted deeper in something.
Okay.
So I think that was a good
that affects demand.
Yeah, it does.
I think you're taking the metaphor too seriously. You're talking about supply and demand right now.
No, you're good. I thought that one was really interesting. That one probably stood out to me the second most. How about you guys? Was there any that really stood out to you? And if so, why?
Out of the 4?
Yeah, out of 3 for you guys.
Well, yeah, 3.
I would say the opinion one probably, because I think we all do it to a certain extent. I think that's what we're working on, or at least, I think it becomes destructive when you're always trying to persuade somebody of something. I think that's where it becomes destructive. But other than that, we all have opinions. I think it's being able to organize it in a very productive or an effective manner, then should be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And these 3 quotes that really stood out to me from that kind of subsection of the chapter. He says, The person who talks too much informs the world of his sins and plans and gives to others the opportunity to profit by his ideas. Wise men keep their plans to themselves and refrain from expressing uninvited opinions.
Right.
Keyword uninvited.
Uninvited.
The person who insists on talking seldom has an opportunity to learn by listening to others. That subsection, those quotes kind of really stood out to me. Just because I think it just puts words to the thoughts that I've had before, right? The person that just you meet at a party that just keeps talking and talking and talking. It's like, dude, when do you ever run out of content? You know?
Yeah.
So, and the person that sits back and kind of forms an opinion and comes to the table with a more organized idea, I think garners more respect and value in their words. So those were things that just stood out to me in that desire.
Yeah, because I have that same part highlighted. I don't know if you mentioned it, but Napoleon Hill asked a question. He says, "Why do so many people indulge in the habit of expressing uninvited opinions?" The answer from the devil is the habit is one way of expressing egotism and vanity. The desire for self-expression is inborn in people. The motive behind the habit is to attract attention of others and to impress them favorably. I was like, I'd put next to it like social media. Like, think about social media.
Yeah.
Why is everybody posting what they're doing all the time? Like, it's to, hey, look at me. Like, and I think it's not every single person, but really like look at like why you're posting and why you create things. Like,
and that's literally what Instagram and Twitter are.
Yeah. But I do like people that like to share facts, or not facts, but information based stuff. I like a lot of motivation stuff. I love seeing people on their grind. I love people saying like building stuff, like even if it's just workout routines and like that stuff. I like that stuff, but I know some people think like, oh, you're posting your root or your fitness or whatever to show off. And it's like, I don't think anybody's doing that. Well, I think some people do that, but I think most people do it because they understand they can create a business out of it. It's like their job nowadays.
I don't know how many people really do though.
I would say less.
I think it's more for public perception.
Yeah, it's minority for sure.
Yeah.
But
John, you had something to say? You're on mute.
Yeah, I would say the only difference is you guys brought up social media. Social media, you have a following, so everything you put out is invited. You know?
Yeah.
So like, it's not like you could be putting out a ton of stuff and have no followers. So then it's no harm. But anyone who follows you, I mean, they elected to take in your feet, you know? So
yeah, that's a good insight.
Yeah. How about you, David? Which of those stood out to you and why?
Yeah, I think we touched on the loosely expression of opinions. I really like the comparison of the body as like a sewer.
Oh yeah.
With food, right? Because we always hear, you're supposed to eat healthy, whatnot. And then, I think putting this I guess metaphor into the text was really interesting, right? Because like a sewer, it has the potential to be something pretty gnarly right on the side of the road, but it is necessary to get things out, and there's a function for it. And I really liked how Napoleon Hill in this discussion with the devil was mentioning that it's important to take care of your bodily sewer, right? Because it's necessary for us to eat food, but you can form what do you call it, auto intoxication.
Yeah.
You're poisoning your body, and you can't really think clearly if your body isn't well taken care of. So I don't know, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
I thought it was real funny when Napoleon Hill was like, can we call it something else, like intestine tract? Did you guys have that in your book?
Think so, yeah.
He's like, I'm feeling nauseated when you talk about body sewers. I was like,
no.
what a bitch.
No, not in our book.
Sewer makes you feel disgusted, huh? No, I think that's interesting too, because here in America we have access to food that isn't the best for you, but damn, it tastes good. You know what I mean?
Good, and it's the holidays, so
Yeah, and then he's like, they'd rather take medicine or have a surgical procedure done than did he mention enemas in yours?
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah. He said then rather than clean out their colon with fresh water, a little bit of fresh water. I was like, eesh, I don't know about about that. But then I think about
Dude,
it.
when I read that, because like this was written like 100 years ago, I was like, damn, they were doing that back then. It made me think, I was like, maybe I should get an enema, like, just for, I don't know, like
See what happens.
26 years, like just, I need one like good cleaning, you know, and I'll probably give her another 25 more, you know?
Yeah,
like-
change the oil, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to change the oil, bro. Like fucking, like what do I gotta do?
I got need the whole transmission change,
Fluid.
fluid change.
Oh man, yeah, that one was quite the interesting topic. Yeah, it's like people we don't really, you know, there's a desire for food, but there's the line that's crossed, and even, you know, all of us do it. You know, this we just had Thanksgiving. I mean, how many people gorge themselves, and I mean, and me included.
Yeah,
I mean,
I always think Thanksgiving food's like not that bad for you. Like it's fucking turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean, like fucking like what? Like macaroni, like
Sweet
all that
potato
stuff's not bad.
pie.
Pie. I love pie.
I
Don't
think it's
hurt.
a portion. It might not be
Yes.
bad, but you're just gorging yourself with it.
Yeah, you're flooding the sewer up, and the sewer's
Like
like, dude, I know this is all healthy, dog, but let me
Yeah.
catch up.
I don't know about y'all. Mine ain't healthy.
Like when I was reading, I was thinking of like, you eat those Doritos Cool Ranch, like damn, they fucking taste good. But like, think of all that fucking dust inside you, bro. Like that Cool Ranch dust, like that cannot be good for the sewer. You know?
Sticking to
No.
the sides.
Yeah,
Uh.
my sewer's bad right now, dog. I had angry chicks yesterday,
Ooh.
and then I went
Extra
out
hot?
drinking. Yeah,
Oh. Damn, you're an animal, dude. Your
You're
poor
an
body.
animal.
yeah.
Your poor body. For me, the one that stood out the most was the desire for expression of sex. And, you know, you could think of expression of sex as horniness, right? And I
Horny
want
Joe.
to express that. Yeah. And so it really stood out to me because I've read his other book, Think and Grow Rich. And there's a chapter in there titled The Transmutation of Sexual Desire. And in this subsection, he talks about if men, or let's just say any human being, were to convert half of their desire for sexual expression into something productive, right? Like a school or work or some sort of trade or hobby, they would become so much better and excel so much more in that field, and have less likeliness to become a drifter, right?
Right.
So I kind of wanted to ask you guys your idea of that subsection. What were your guys' thoughts? Is this something you've heard before? Is this something brand new to you?
Yeah, I think it falls in with like the whole semen retention thing. Like
Yeah.
focus and garner your attention away from sex. But like when I first started hearing about that, like I thought it was strictly sex. But I think it's a lot deeper than sex. So if you're telling someone like, hey, if you take your energy and efforts away, or like your attention, mitigate it somewhere else, push it somewhere else.
Mhm.
You're not just talking about sex. You're talking about like chasing women. You're talking about getting that's what you're talking about. You're not talking about
Masturbation.
Mhm.
laying
All of
down and having sex. You're literally talking about going after. You're on the chase.
Mhm.
And so now I got like a better understanding of it like throughout time. But I think when I first heard that, like, don't be so focused on sex or practice semen retention or whatever the terminology is, it's not just sex. Obviously that's what I hear is just like intercourse or sexual intercourse, but it's the whole game. It's the whole ballpark like of around sex. Like
Yeah.
and
yeah.
if you can dedicate and discipline yourself to, then absolutely I agree with that. Absolutely. Like if you can be disciplined enough to, I guess, focus in and put your energy into something else, then you'll definitely see a fucking tenfold return in other areas of your life.
Yeah, I think that was interesting. Like John said, this book's like 100 years old almost,
Uh-huh.
or if not now over 100 years. And they were talking about this back then.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
kind of crazy.
I've heard this idea surrounded the semen retention movement that the more you release, the lower your testosterone becomes, right? Because you're not retaining any of that.
Interesting.
And so I was like, you know, then I could see how it would make more docile.
Yeah.
Man, I
Yeah.
could see how it could make more of a drifter, because it's like it's a reward at the end of the day, right? If we
Yeah.
think back to caveman days, it's like that was a reward. And it's if we still have that kind of primal mentality, whether we're more sophisticated or not, it's still in there. If you condition your brain to be like, oh, this isn't really a reward anymore, or if it is, then I can just kind of chill,
Mhm.
then you're more likely to become a drifter because I've achieved this. I got what I wanted.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the devil states Sex, like all other forces available to man, should be understood, mastered, and made to serve man.
Mm.
So my question was, how can we understand the desire for sexual expression, master it, and make it serve us?
Mm.
Yeah, that was a tough one, you know? Because like what does that mean? Like I'm not supposed to jerk anymore? Like I don't know, you know, like
Yeah, if we
like
take it as subjective for you, what would that look like?
well, you know, one maybe like when I go on the weekends, the goal of just getting pussy should just stop. You know, like what if I did a challenge? Like you can only jerk like once a week or something. Like I don't know, you know, like that's what it looks like for me. Like
Okay.
yeah, dude,
Right.
jerk
And it's
less.
funny.
So if that's mastering it, how does that serve you?
Oh, it's a good one.
I don't know. I've never done it yet. So
Okay.
What do you mean you've never done? You've never.
like I've never been like I'm not gonna chase pussy and like I'm gonna like be disciplined with like masturbation or anything, you know?
Well,
it's just like
I mean, I know you personally. I don't think you chase pussy.
Vaheen.
Like I don't think we do, right? Like I think there's a difference between chasing it and then
Magnetizing it.
yeah, attracting it, and that goes back to the there's this part in the book where he talks about the same energy of like thinking, of being an accurate thinker, is the same emotion of mastery of sex, because it's with your thoughts. It's like you know, you're at the core of your being to control and master yourself. So I don't know, I think it's interesting how it all kind of starts again, like in most of the books we've read, in with your thoughts. And
okay, well, what does that look like for you guys then? Because I have an uninformed opinion, because that's not something I've ever tried to tackle before, you know? Where like when it comes to food and health, I think those are things that I can like, you know, weigh in on.
It's a good question.
Yeah,
Because like you say I don't chase pussy, but like on the weekend I'm like, okay, well, like, you know, like, well, what's happening? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't have a girlfriend or nothing.
I guess I just viewed chasing differently. Like let's say like the simp men, or the people that you know, that word gets thrown around. I see them as kind of like chasers.
No, that's different. That's just their strategy, because they're like that's how they get the goal.
Yeah,
That's
it's
how
like
they get
for pussy.
you know,
So I think
like for example, like how I go about it is I go and work out and try to look better, so they think I look good when I'm out, you know.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
I try to think of like good ways on how to like break the ice when I go talk to them. Hey, move.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the question?
So it's the same as the one for John. How can we understand the desire for sexual expression, master it, and make it serve us?
At least like, if we're just personally talking, because I don't like sexual desire. I think is hard for each man. I can't speak for women, but it's going to be personal for each, you know, a different story for each of us. But I think for me, like developing a serious, meaningful relationship has always like helped me like master my sexual, like, and that's why I'm always seeking it. Because when I'm not in a relationship, I kind of just turn into this like fucking like I just want to fucking
A dog.
Yeah. I'm not saying I don't like that self. I don't like that version of me, because I think that's necessary in life to like to move. Like it brings the competitive side out of me.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy to have a competitive side in everything you do. But I think where it starts to become like a detriment to me specifically is like it starts to affect other areas of my life. And I think having a woman or like a sexual partner just to be there to not focus on like I don't have to chase anymore.
Yeah.
It kind of removes that shit completely. And I can garner a lot of my energy and attention somewhere else. Because it's like I know a lot of people don't like talk. Yeah, a lot of people don't like talking about this shit. But I think if you have a partner, my personal opinion is it releases that whole stigma of like having to chase and having to go after. But again, we all have different personal traits and tendencies to do different things. So that's kind of one topic I try to like not tell people how to like. You figure that shit out. Like,
yeah, it's very subjective, right? How much you do express sexual tendencies is a subjective thing. For me, it's different than you and John and Devin, and it's going to be different for everybody. I think if I were to tackle this question, how do we understand first the desire for sexual expression? Just maybe for like the next week, or if you really want to try it, observe temptation that you have, right?
Yep.
Observe how often you're releasing, or nutting, if you want to think about it like that.
Beep. Cut. Straight to jail.
Understand, just try and understand things. The scientific method, you start with observation. So observe yourself for
Understand yourself.
yeah, observe yourself first. And then, I would even say observe how you act. Say like day 1, I haven't let go. Let's see how I act. And then day 2, how do I act? Day 3, day 4, like, let's see how this looks. How does my behavior change? How does my mentality change? Observe those things. And then maybe play around with it, right? It's just like a diet, I would say, is kind of build out, let's try this. How does this affect me? Process the information, make the change, and then try and master that. And then to make it serve you is to kind of use what you've learned and apply it. So for me, I think personally, an everyday release isn't something that I do, because I do see how it affects my mentality, right? And I do think it kind of comes back to the primal thing, where it's like it's a reward in the end of the day for doing something, for achieving something. And so if you're rewarding yourself every single day and you haven't earned it, your brain can take that as like, oh, I'm just supposed to get this all the time. Or I don't really have to try hard because I'm going to get that release anyway. Right. So for me, I like to, retain that until I think I've earned it mentally, or, a certain amount of days goes by. But I think it's an interesting question because it is subjective. And that's why I kind of posed it to us, is I wanted to kind of see how everybody would kind of attack that. So that just really stood out to me. The desire for sexual expression was the biggest appetite for me.
Yeah, because even like a personal thing, because this is like, I can use a personal example, like for understanding a specific personal or sexual expression. When I go to, like, if I'm like horny at any, I get like my specific horny time is like in the early hours of the morning or late
Horny
at night.
time.
Like it's not fucking like random time.
Horny time, huh?
But it's
Sexy time.
like,
That's
one thing I had to come to understand with like previous relationship, even the relationship I'm in now, is like, if I don't get it, I can't get upset. You know what I mean? And that's like, but that was a hard thing for me to like get over. That was a big speed bump for me.
Really?
It's like, and so I had to really deal with that and really sit within myself on like, because I've always been like a sexual person. Sex is very important to me. Like, I'm not undermining it by no means. But I think I had to come to understand that like I'm working with somebody else in this partnership. You know what I mean? I can't just be like, sex now, go on.
Yeah.
Like,
why did it upset you, if you
just
don't mind
a drive? It's just the primal instinct in me. It's just like, I want to fucking go crazy. Like, you know what I mean? And and understanding that. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why.
He's trying to release.
I'm trying to
release.
And then mastering is just like, I understand I have that now. I understand that exists. When I get to that point, I have to consistently, if I'm told no, I can't get upset and go whine and like, oh man, I didn't get nothing. So I have to understand that. And then what makes it serve me is when I do have that time and like that time, like where it's, I was actually able to hold off, that time's just going to be even more better than like fighting every time. Like, I want to do it like that.
Yeah.
So, but that's just a personal thing for me. Like, that's just me specifically. Like, I've understood, and there's so many things like that I've come to understand about myself, just in the sexual like expression and why things are triggering me and why things like.
Yeah.
And you found a partner that's willing to kind of experiment and play with that.
Absolutely, bro. And like, I would recommend anybody, like, you get a partner. I don't know. One thing that I love about like obviously like
trigger warning.
Yeah. It's
Trigger.
Don't beep the name.
Is that she's like she's so like, she has as much sexual drive as like I do.
Okay.
So it's like, I would recommend, if you like get into that, like looking for a partner, make sure you find someone that matches your energy. You know what I mean? If you're not very sexual and you find a person that's like, I'm trying to be busting it every goddamn day, like, I don't think that relationship's gonna work. Like,
yeah. So they gotta kind of match that energy you bring. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Anything else you guys want to add to that? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Next question. Were there any exchanges between Hill and the devil that really stood out to you guys in this chapter?
Mm.
Like, what I'll do is I'll highlight a Q and an A that were like, oh, this is a good one.
Right,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
How about you, Jay?
Let's see. I got one right. I'm going to just mention it. Okay. So here, kind of on our last topic, Hill asked the devil, how can one master the emotion of sex? And the devil says, by the simple process of transmuting that emotion into some form of activity other than copulation. That's an old school word right there, some coitus. Yeah.
Quite.
And then he says, sex is one of the greatest of all forces which motivates human beings. Because of this fact, it is also one of the most dangerous forces. If the average man would control his sex desires and transmute them into a driving force with which to carry on his occupation 1/2 of the time he dissipates in the pursuit of sex, he would never know poverty.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because it's like, let's just say you took half of that energy you put into trying to get have some sex, trying to get some umami, and then trying to get that, and you put that into something that just makes you a better person. I can see where that's coming from, and maybe it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right. That you could fight off poverty by just spending half the time working on something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, John.
For me, and like I made this joke with my little brother, my best friend around here, but like I'm talking to my little brother, and I'm like, dude, you need to get in the gym and start like getting healthy again. And I was like, that way you can get some, dude, and then and I was like, I was like, you already got a good job, so you're getting money, and then like my best friend was like, it always comes back to it's like we get a good job so we can have a lot of money so we can impress more. Like we get in shape so we can be like, yo, do you see me? So I can get more. Like you get a nice car that way. When you have a car, like when you pick up your girl, she goes, that's a nice car. So you get like, what do you do in life that doesn't go back to like getting like impressing women, I guess, like my apartment, the whole reason I decorate it is so when girls come over, they go, oh, it looks cool. Like, dude, like you think it's just for me? Like, I don't know. Like I'm a very simple guy, but like, it always goes back to like, if you didn't have to impress anybody, and the whole reason we try to impress people is to get girls, it's just like, we would stop working in general,
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Is there anything in your guys' life that you do not to impress women?
Yeah, well, do you David? No,
go ahead.
That's my job.
I think like for me at least, like one thing is solidifying a relationship helps me move away from that impression of impressing women. Right? Obviously I do, like I would love to do things that like impress everybody, you know what I mean? Like especially you guys, you know what I mean? But like the opposite sex, I think when I'm single, like absolutely everything is fucking like flex and fucking hard and going, but
hard.
And can I say something? But it also most time, if you're impressing your friends, it's because they also see the value and you would get with those things. Like
True.
Very rarely, like there might be some niche thing like only my boys will like, and like it'll like with Jeremy, I'll call Jeremy up about like a fucking container for camping. And he'll fucking like squirt over it, but like no one else would. But like, so but no,
he said squirt. Oh no.
yeah, I don't. It's hard though. Like,
it's an interesting question.
I think we all have that desire to impress the opposite sex. You know what I mean? Like
100%,
whether you're in a relationship or not, like you're always looking down. Like it's always on our mind. Like it's our primal instinct to fucking do that shit. Like,
are you kidding me? When you're at the gym and you're lifting weight, and then like a hot girl walks by, you're like,
hell yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, and
dude, for fucking 2 months, I worked out by myself in a gym, and I was making no gains. I went to a gym with people, and I just got stronger because there's fucking
a lot more.
Things
around, dude.
Yeah.
I think on maybe the list of priority when you get into a relationship, it drops.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
The list is still the list.
Maintain the romance, baby.
I think it's also like where I find myself today is like I don't find it to be important factor. Obviously, I'm in a relationship, but I think even if I was in a relationship, I still wouldn't find it. I would use my free time when I'm like done with everything, just like sex. Like if I had conquered everything throughout my week, then I would be looking forward to sex.
Right.
But like even if I was single, I would be like, okay, well, did I hit this? Then I should go out there and chase and like see if I can find someone out there like that's worth bringing back to the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we all have that shit. I think it's
yeah.
you
As
can't
men,
hate it.
that's what it is.
It's
you know what I mean?
he explains it as it's a good thing. It's natural. Like
Yeah.
what John was saying, like how everything comes back to it. I think it's natural. It's literally like the way nature works, and
Right.
we make babies.
It's like your competitive edge, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Chad Ochocinco used to take a Viagra before every game.
Sheesh, that man.
Dude, that shit is so funny. Like that dude was bricked. That dude was bricked up. He's like, I dare you to tackle me, dog. I dare you to
No, I
tackle
dare you, bro. You gonna feel
He
something.
slap
right now.
tackle you? Yeah, what is that, dog? Yo.
Dude, could you imagine?
That's what he
Like,
said.
dude, that dude was not even thinking. He was bricked up.
Yo, it just gave me that edge, man. You know what I mean?
Oh shit.
That shit is so funny. to see.
Wasn't it Ronda Rousey or some UFC
I don't
fighter
know.
girl? And she's like, yeah, I have sex before every match or the night before, like crazy sex
Shush.
to get her just I don't
Beating
know.
the shit out of him.
Guess so.
That's nuts.
Oh my god.
I would say it'd probably think more clearly. I guess
Maybe.
more, like faster.
Post nut clarity, dog.
Yeah, dude. I mean, sometimes it ain't. That ain't it.
Clarity and clear.
Yeah, yeah, what have I-
Exhausted like a motherfucker.
what have I done? Definitely.
I thought a really interesting part in the Q&A part was this. Napoleon Hill says, but what are people going to lean upon in the hour of emergency when they know not where, not to whom to appeal? Let them, and then the answer from the devil is, let them lean upon the only dependable power available to any human being. And then Napoleon Hill's like, what is that?
Mhm.
And the devil said, themselves, the power of their own thoughts, the only power they can control and may rely upon, the only power which cannot be perverted, colored, modified, and falsified by their dishonest fellow human beings. I read that part and I was like, sheesh.
Yeah, that's how like I got the whole. Obviously, not just that section, but I think that goes into the play when I was saying this book comes off very unbiased to me. It's like think for yourself. No one else is going to do your thinking for you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's this way or that way, but like you can also be right in the middle for yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
I wrote right here next to that part, be dependable to yourself. I like the idea of like kind of relying upon yourself, not in a super selfish way, but maybe you have to be selfish with yourself, like when you look in the mirror, and you have to be able to depend on that person. So that's what I took that as, and using your own thoughts and making sure that they're yours. And then it's like one of the greatest powers that I think, you know, as humans, that we have the ability to use our mind.
Yeah, that section fell under the desire to indulge in spiritual orgies through some form of religious ceremony section for me.
Oh, okay. So I didn't have that.
Right. And he's like, and that question, like, okay, well, when humans hit hard times, what are they supposed to fall down on? What crutch are they supposed to use? And that's when he said,
Yeah.
you know, it's themselves that they should fall back on. They shouldn't need any crutch at all.
Yeah.
And then so basically the idea being that people use religion as a crutch.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Or the state. And yeah, or the state.
or state,
Yeah.
or some sort of entity greater than themselves is what they're looking for.
Mhm.
And I thought that whole section was really, really interesting.
Yeah, there's a annotated part from in our book. Right after that, in bold letters, it says, "You may not be able to control other people, but you can control how you react to them and their actions. This is an easy thing to say, but much more difficult to do so. We tend to want to change other people when we can truly only change ourselves and how we react to others."
Yeah.
I think that was one of the best lines I think I've read so far.
Yeah. I think once you start wanting to do better for yourself, you start to recognize who else is doing better for themselves, like mentally, not like material or anything like that, or like just trying to work on themselves every single day. I think you'll start to, I think it was the next chapter, but he's like, it's like a magnet, like the superstition, you'll garner, those people will come to you without like recognizing it. Because you guys are thinking like, but you can't point to like how this how did we connect? How do we like he explains it in the next chapter.
Yeah,
We'll go
get
over,
into
but the part I found like most interesting, 193 says, Napoleon Hill asked the question. He's like, do I understand you to say that knowledge of the true functions of sex and ability to think accurately are the two things of greatest importance to mankind? And the devil says, that is what I intended you to understand. Accurate thinking comes first because it is solution to all man's problems, the answer to all his prayers, the source of opulence and all material possessions. Accurate thinking is aided by properly controlled and directed sex emotion, because sex emotion is the same energy that with which one thinks. And I think because Napoleon Hill kind of probes him a bit about asking, or what does he like mean about like thinking accurately? Because what does it mean to think accurately? It's first you have to have some, I think it's like wisdom. I think it's like knowledge of life experience. It's like you have to be able to garner some of that first. Like you won't go to a fucking 10-year-old and be like, can't find a job right now. Like my life's kind of up in the air. Like what should I do? You know what I mean? Like you'll look for somebody that's kind of been, or you'll kind of look for someone that's older. Like, you know what I mean? Respect your elders for a reason. But I think that's kind of like think accurately. Then you'll be able to guide your life in a way that you want it. And obviously he's saying think accurately, and the functions of sex are like the two most important to mankind. I think it's not just sex. I think it's because of like we're the creation of humans, like humanity, like we populate this earth. So I think that's why it's important too. So
we create each other.
Yeah. So, but that was a big part outside of what we've already discussed.
Nice
for me.
Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the desire to indulge in spiritual orgies. It sounds like a good time, right?
Yeah,
spiritual orgy.
Some sort of religious ceremony, a spiritual orgy. So the devil states, a spiritual orgy is any form of religious ceremony which excites the mind and steps it up into an intoxicated rate of vibration. All forms of revivals, such as those that were conducted by Billy Sunday, Gypsy Smith, don't know any of these people, Dwight Moody, and others their type, are spiritual orgies. The leader of the spiritual orgies uses hypnotic suggestion to dull the sense of reason of his followers. The victims sometimes indulge in the orgies so energetically that they never regain full control of their reason and willpower. The insane asylums are filled with men and women and children who lost their mental equilibrium through indulgence in some form of spiritual orgy.
Okay.
That's a lot.
When I read this, what I thought of was music festivals as like a replacement for like spiritual orgies. And sometimes like it happens a lot. It happens a lot in California, dude. You guys have a lot of this, but like these young adults, women and men become like these like EDM. Their whole personality in life is going to raves, you know? There's like the whole thing.
They got the beads and everything.
They got beads, they wear fishnet, and like, it's like an experience, you know? I mean, it really is. It's like an all-encompassing experience. And like, I feel like they get the taste of that at a young age. And they're like, that was like the pinnacle that I've ever felt. And like, they're always chasing that.
Yeah,
and then, like,
true.
Subconsciously, like there's a lot of like cultural stuff that's like subconsciously intertwined with that particular type of music and stuff. You know, there's a type of culture that follows it. And these people, they almost take it on as religion. And like, I know some people that all they care about is going to the next rave, going to the next place the guy plays, and like trying to re-experience that, like that high they felt at their first music festival, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% true. I've met those people too. Their whole life is that. It's interesting.
Dave, I'm not talking about you. I like raves too. I wasn't talking about you. But I saw you make a face when I said the word rave. But
but chasing that experience, I wonder if the second one's ever as good as the first.
Dude, you know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah. That's a good thing for a lot of ravey people to fucking listen to. I mean, yeah, give it like some insight into like, you know, why they're maybe spending all of their money on going to the next one, or like just trying to re-experience something when it's like, you know, kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too, because I've been to Christian camps, and this is something they hit on every night. right? So I had this thing called OGN. It was called Operation Good News, and so we would go stay at Point Loma Nazarene University. So we live in
Whoa.
San Diego for a week, right? And that week, what you had is you had evangelism time, you got apologetics. So you would learn about the world's religions, you would learn about your own religion, and then lunch would come, you eat, and then everybody get in a van and they'd go to a different place in San Diego.
Kumbaya.
Yeah, and so they'd go and they tell people about the, evangelize. So you go and you tell people about God, and so it was just weird because you're like a young kid trying to talk to adults about God, you know what I mean? And then you'd come back and you'd go eat
That's
dinner,
funny.
and then you'd go to worship, right? So at nighttime it'd just be like an hour of just band and everybody playing, and you reach this like exciting level,
Mhm.
and then you feel this way, and then they send you out for Bible study, right? And so it was like every night they bring you up and they send you out, they bring you up and they send you out, and then you'd come back and be like, man, that was crazy, like I can't wait for next year. And then you just wouldn't get that experience again until next year, and I just thought it was interesting because those ceremonies, you don't really get them in many different places. Like even every Sunday church, it's not like that. And I could see how that can change somebody, right?
It's like sports for some people too,
Right.
They fucking like Sunday night comes on, and like I know dads that are not leaving the dining room
Yep.
at all costs.
Right.
I'm sorry, the living room at all costs. Like,
Mhm.
like food is brought to them. Like, fucking
Give me a beer.
Fox 5 is on, dude. Like, we're
Yeah.
watching football.
Right. So I thought it was really interesting. These things are, whatever you regard as your religion. Some people it's music, some people it's religion itself, and some people it's football. It could be a whole bunch of different things, but the desire to indulge in the overindulge in those experiences can be used against you, right? And in this chapter, the devil states the only weapon against me is the action of independent thought, right? And so he can use feelings against you, right? So whatever you love, whatever you fear, he can heighten those things and cause you to drift away from what your real purpose is. And so whether that's religion, fear of God, fear of the devil, love of God, love of the devil, love of sports, sex, partnerships, whatever it is, I thought that really stood out to me was he will use feelings to pull you away from where you're actually supposed to be, your destiny.
Yep.
And so think for yourself. And I think if you're an adult and you're thinking for yourself, your biggest thing, if you're going to have kids, is to teach your kids to think for themselves. And I think those are the best adults you can get. So that's kind of what stood out to me from this chapter. Is there anything else you guys want to add before I take us out?
No.
That was a nice no. Ooh. No, I think we covered a lot.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Paradigm Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Are any of those 4 appetites standing out to you? Do you subscribe to any of those? If you don't, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Like the video, drop a comment down below. Are there any books you recommend for future series? And what did you learn from this chapter if you're reading along for us? Follow us on our social media platforms. All the information you need will be down in the description below. Share this video, like this video, comment down below. And remember, who you are now and the actions you do now is who you will be tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.
Rough.